teetering, blood lust, fear, teetering, blood lust, fear, teetering, blood lust. Thousands of years ago, 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 thousands of years ago.
These were the forces that.
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 These were the forces that
Ruled our world.
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 A world war.
A hold here.
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 Prey were scared of predators.
Prey was scared of predators.
Prey were scared of predators.
Prey was scared of predators.
Prey were scared of predators.
Prey was scared of predators.
Prey were scared of predators.
Prey was scared of predators.
Prey were scared of predators.
Prey was scared of predators.
Prey were scared of predators.
Prey was scared of predators.
Prey were scared of predators.
Prey was scared of predators.
Prey were scared of predators.
Prey was scared of predators.
And predators.
And predators.
And predators.
And predators.
And predators.
And
And
predators.
predators.
And predators.
And predators.
And predators.
And predators.
And predators.
And predators. Had an uncontrollable.
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 Had
Had an
an uncontrollable.
uncontrollable.
Had an 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 uncontrollable.
Biological urge to maim.
Biological urge to man.
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 And more.
And more. And
More.
and more. And
And more.
and more. And
And more.
and more. And
And more.
and more. And
And more.
and more. And
And more.
and more. And
Fear.
fear. Teetering. Blood lust.
Fear.
Fear. Teetering.
Blood.
Blood lust.
Fear.
Fear. Teetering.
Blood.
Blood lust.
Thousands of years ago.
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 Thousands of years ago. These were the forces that.
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 These were the forces that
Ruled our world.
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 A world where.
A whole
A
pair.
world where.
A whole pair.
A 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 world where.
A whole pair.
Prey were scared of predators.
Prey was scared of predators.
Prey were scared of predators.
Prey was scared of predators.
Prey were scared of predators.
Prey was scared of predators.
Prey were scared of predators.
Prey was scared of predators.
Prey were scared of predators.
Prey was scared of predators.
Prey were scared of predators.
Prey was scared of predators.
Prey were scared of predators.
Prey was scared of predators.
Prey were scared of predators.
Prey was scared of predators.
And 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 predators.
Had an uncontrollable.
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 Biological urge to mate.
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 And more.
And more.
And more.
And more.
And more.
And more. And
more.
and more. And
And more.
and more. And
And more.
and more. And
And more.
and more. And
Fear.
fear. Teachery. Bloodlust.
Fear.
Fear.
Treachery.
Teachery.
Bloodlust.
Bloodlust.
Fear.
Fear.
Treachery.
Teachery.
Bloodlust.
Bloodlust.
Thousands of years ago.
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 These were the forces that.
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 These were the forces that
Ruled our world.
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 A world where.
A halter.
A world where
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 A halter.
prey were scared of predators.
Prey was scared of predators.
Prey were scared of predators.
Prey was scared of predators.
Prey were scared of predators.
Prey was scared of predators.
Prey were scared of predators.
Prey was scared of predators.
Prey were scared of predators.
Prey was scared of predators.
Prey were scared of predators.
Prey was scared of predators.
Prey were scared of predators.
Prey was scared of predators.
Prey were scared of predators.
Prey was scared of predators.
And 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 predators.
An uncontrollable.
Had an uncontrollable.
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 Biological urge to mate.
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 And more.
And more.
And more.
And more. And
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 And more.
and more. And fear. Teacher. Bloodlust. Fear. Teacher. Bloodlust. Fear. Teacher. Bloodlust.
Thousands of years ago.
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 These were the forces that.
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 These were the forces that
Ruled our world.
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 A world where.
A halter.
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 Prey were scared of predators.
Prey was scared of predators.
Prey were scared of predators.
Prey was scared of predators.
Prey were scared of predators.
Prey was scared of predators.
Prey were scared of predators.
Prey was scared of predators.
Prey were scared of predators.
Prey was scared of predators.
Prey were scared of predators.
Prey was scared of predators.
Prey were scared of predators.
Prey was scared of predators.
Prey were scared of predators.
Prey was scared of predators.
And predators.
And predators.
And predators.
And predators.
And predators.
And predators.
predators,
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 and predators,
predators,
and predators,
predators,
and predators,
predators,
and predators,
uncontrollable,
had an uncontrollable,
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 biological urge to mate,
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 and more,
and more, and
more,
and more, and
more,
and more, and
more,
and more, and
more,
and more, and
more,
and more, and
more,
and more, and